There you go.
Okay, this is Herb Arico, Chair of the Wellington Board of Education, calling our September 14th virtual meeting in order. I believe we have a quorum,
We do.
and which is totaling of 7 members on the Board of Education. The next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would just stand for a moment. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next order of business is present to speak. And I just want to say a couple of things about present to speak, Phil. So I'm reading part of the policy 93.5, which deals with present to speak. Speakers are to be recognized by the chairman and identify himself or herself by the name and address, and proceed with his or her comments. All persons will be limited to 5 minutes. The total time allotted for present to speak shall not exceed 20 minutes and is at the discretion of the board, and they may not address specific personnel issues. So we have to be very careful if we do have any speakers that they do not get into that particular area. The public generally has a right to attend meetings of the Board of Education, and in our case, we do permit the public to participate in the meeting during present to speak. Normally, we do not. When they public speaks and gives their little talk, we listen, and it goes into the minutes of the meeting. We do not get into a discussion generally with them. One of the things to remember is that although we do permit the public to participate in the meeting at that time, we do not have to do that because we don't have any legal obligation to do that. Well, the Board of Education holds their meetings in public, but it's not a public meeting. Bill, do we have anyone out there that would like to say it?
So I just clicked so everyone can unmute yourself if you'd like to speak. Just need to identify yourself. So if you're not on camera, which is everybody right now pretty much, if you want to speak, please just unmute yourself and identify yourself. Going once. Going twice. Okay, everyone's just going to watch, I think, today, Herb.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the chairman's report. Opportunity to speak. I just want to mention that we did have a retreat not too long ago. We discussed our mission statement, and we're probably still working on the mission statement and goals as we move into this school year. But the mission statement that we have, and I'll read it, Wellington Public Schools, through a partnership with students, parents, and staff, and the community, will provide exceptional instruction in a positive and engaging environment of inclusion where students achieve their potential. And also we have some goals that we have looked at from time to time, and they revolve around student growth and success, school culture and climate, and sustainable strategic investment for school facilities. Under student growth, it reads, the Wellington Public Schools will foster intellectual risk-taking and increase achievement for all students through a rigorous, relevant, and engaging curriculum. Under school climate, culture, and climate, the Wellington Public Schools will provide a welcoming environment that is socially, emotionally, and physically safe, fosters meaningful collaborative relationships in an innovative culture, and embraces student diversity in an inclusive setting. And the last one, sustainable and strategic investments for school facilities. The Wellington Public Schools will develop a comprehensive long-term plan for the efficient use and effective use of school building facilities. And generally speaking, when we start our meetings, we probably should think of those goals and the mission statement as we move forward. The other thing I'd like to just mention briefly is the state legislature appropriations committee has put together some items that might be of interest to everyone. The ACS has been worked a little bit, and they're going to, this year, they're going to provide about $37 million for that, and that'll be distributed throughout the state. And as far as I know, the formula might be tinkered with a little bit, but there may be some increases because of some things that people are doing, say in ELL or something like that, or low income people, but generally it'll probably be about the same. And special education, they're providing funding of about $66 million, which is also distributed. The interesting thing there, I believe, is the fact that they're going to maintain the cap on special education excess costs grant. And they have a lot of other items too. They have development of a kindergarten to 8th grade model curriculum, and they list a number of things that will be in that. And I don't think it's mandatory, but it may be, you can use those areas or not, I guess. I'm not quite sure of that. And also they have some items in diversity and also in racism. On House Bill number 6662, the Appropriations Committee declaring racism as a public health crisis and establishing a Commission on Racial Equality in Public Health. But if you read through the bill, it also gets into disparity of in Connecticut based on race in educational indicators, and they also include health and criminal justice and economic indicators. But there are quite a few bills that we don't hear about and don't know about really, but they do impact us. I guess Phil gets most of that information and has to implement any that are compulsory. The next order of business is we have a presentation this evening. And Phil, I'm going to let you introduce our new director and give us some information on this.
Absolutely. So Erin Conley is with us tonight, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I asked Erin just, you know, what if, I think we've been in school for 8 days today, something like that. And she's already flying. And so I thought it was important for the board to get a sense of what she's already doing and working on. And I'll talk later about the curriculum committee, the board curriculum committee and meeting. But basically what I asked Erin to do tonight was just give us a snapshot, what you see, where you're going, and some of the things that she's seen in Wellington. So I am just going to share my screen here and let her go.
So thanks, Phil. Good evening, everybody. So yeah, so I'm just about a month in since last time. And just really quickly, I separated this into 2 slides. One, what I've been working on collaboratively with the staff, and then the second one, kind of next steps and where we're headed from what, kind of I've absorbed, learned, and worked with people so far on. So you can see the first thing is my 90-day entry plan. There is a link there. We will share it with you. But generally speaking, the 5 goals and objectives I had in my 90-day entry plan is to really establish and nurture and build those relationships with staff, students, families, and community members of Wellington, so that I could better understand the norms, the practices, the processes of the school and the community at large. A lot of this time is listening and learning to really build an understanding. My second goal then is to really investigate progress around the previous goals, your school improvement and district improvement goals. Look at student data in order to then use that data to provide guidance around curriculum programs and methods to support positive culture climates, as well as student achievement. My third major goal during this 90-day period is to establish, again, positive, productive relationships with the state, other statewide districts and organizations, especially ones that work around curriculum, to understand their characteristics and opportunities that we may have for partnering. Collaboratively establish a foundation for systemic and continuous improvement by looking at strengths and opportunities for growth within the district and identifying strengths and targeted areas for growth in the area of parental and community involvement to see how can we bring in our school community, our larger Wellington community too, as we build this curriculum and look for those opportunities. So those are the major goals of this 90-day plan that I've really been immersed in, meeting with curriculum staff, meeting with all grade level staff. I've had the fortunate opportunity to also interim at center. So I've gotten to see curriculum in the classrooms, actually living, breathing it, working alongside with the students and the teachers. So that's been a very fortunate happenstance as well, and really provided some great insight. During this time, while I've been listening and learning, we've also been moving because you can't stop. So during this time, we've been working very closely with Kristen Stevens to roll out the letters training. The letters training is going to be revolutionary for our district. It's literacy based. It's going to teach all teachers in the district who teach any reading or writing, really the science behind reading. How do we learn to read it? It really looks at our brain and helps us understand and build the capacity so we can in turn really target gaps and needs and differentiate for students right in the moment, but also plan a course better with that. We rolled out the second step curriculum. We did a big PD to launch it around right after convocation and right before school started. And both schools have had 1 week of lessons, and they've been going very smoothly. And I've been watching to a few rooms at center, and the kids were super engaged in their goal setting this week. So the first lesson is around setting goals, understanding how to set a goal, how to make it measurable. They were really, really into that goal setting part. We've been working collaboratively at center with pupil services, with Marcia, as well as the center staff, the interventionists, and Kristen, to look at our tiered system of support, which is the science SRBI, so that, so we look at the tier 1 curriculum, but then in addition, if the kids aren't receiving it, how do we refer them and get them those extra services? And then if they're still not responding, how do we get them that even deeper intervention? So really looking at that process, really making sure that the system is in place, that the teachers are clear on where and how to go through that process, and kind of revising some forms and updating some things, but we're very excited as a team in terms of where we're at with that process and really getting that up and running. So that's been excited. The other part of that is we're really embedding the teachers' literacy training that they're going to be going into that process as well. So you'll see a lot of the dots are connecting with all of the work that we're doing. And then lastly, really, got to meet with every single grade level, including Unified Arts. So every grade level from kindergarten through 8th grade, as well as both Unified Arts at the schools and administrators. And really I asked them 3 questions. My first question was, what do you love about your grade level curriculum that you don't want to see gone, that whether it's an activity, a lesson, how it's taught? What are some things you would love to see change, or things that new ideas you have? And then the third question was anything else, any other comments, advice? And I was able to really glean, and I will say that through those conversations, every grade level, kindergarten through 8th grade, was very similar of what's great, what they would like to see change. And so that was awesome because it really highlighted the path for us to take in terms of curriculum. So what we found was, teachers really, they love the flexibility, but also are seeking some guidance and boundaries and strategies. So kind of termed this bounded autonomy. So we're looking as we build this curriculum, how to really keep that flexibility so teachers can use their professional judgment and have options to how to get to the end goal, but that, keeping that end goal very in sight and in, fidelity across. In ELA, we're reworking the ELA units to embed the science of reading from what we're learning in letters. And then in math, where the teachers love IM, 6th to 8th grade teachers love the illustrative math program that they've been using for the last couple of years. I mean, that was one thing loud and clear. So we're looking at the curriculum and seeing, is there a possibility to bring it all the way down to K? So we're looking at that possibility and infusing what we have. In science, met with the science coordinator and spoke to looking into a couple of options around, revising what we have from CREC, but also looking into a couple other programs that were developed by the same people who created the standards. So really still working on the science aspect. And then Unified Arts met with that team as well. And they're really excited about getting a core curriculum where they can figure out those points of integration. So we are really working along, looking for that aspect there and working. I'll be supporting the Unified Arts department specific because they do a very different curriculum. But that's what I've been working on in the last 8 days. And so where are we headed next? So currently I have a general vision for the 3-year and try to outline kind of year 1, year 2, year 3. But I'm going to be really teasing out, and I will be sharing it with the board, on the 3-year curriculum strategic plan, which will go all the way down into tasks and activities. So it'll be very detailed. Revision and development of ELA units. We're just going to be looking and starting at, trying to figure out that template and figure out how to work the science of reading into the ELA units we currently have. Launch and support of letters training, which will begin September 27th. We actually launched it today at Hall. Talked about it. But the teachers will actually start the training on the 27th, and we'll be launching it tomorrow at Center. I'm going to continue meeting with the curriculum stipended staff. We meet monthly, actually, depending on the subject area, we meet either weekly or bi-weekly or monthly. And then continue to be present in classrooms to see what the curriculum looks like in, the actual teaching and learning. So getting to be in those and seeing that kind of come alive and continuing my place in the classroom. So that's where I'm headed. And I'm ready for any questions or comments.
Well, Laura?
Hi, Erin. Thank you for that. So I guess I have kind of 2 questions. First, I didn't say anything about social studies, so I'm wondering what's the status of social studies, which is truly the forgotten subject. I'm a science ed person, but I know social studies has it harder. And then the other, I love the idea of the NGSX training. It's fabulous training. Just that's a comment. And open science ed, I also love at the middle school level, but I didn't think they had elementary units yet.
They do not. They do not. Yeah, so if we were to go open science, it would be middle only, and we're looking at reworking CREC. They are working in elementary for open science, but they're not even close to
Right there. Yeah, they're just not close.
Yeah.
Okay. social
in,
studies.
in terms of social studies, I've met with Teresa, and so I've been starting to review the curriculum, and we talked about points of integration and what they love in the social studies curriculum. So we've kind of started that conversation. We're trying to get to figure out those integration points. We kind of have to settle and figure out ELA first, because we really want to figure out how those two fit together. So we're just really in that conversation part of social studies and trying to figure out that fit. But I'm also reviewing. I do have the entire 7th to 8th grade curriculum that I've looked through each unit. Jason did share those with me, so still working through that part.
All right, thanks.
Preliminary data collection.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Elena.
Yeah, that's okay.
Elena?
Elena Testa. Yes, Elena Testa. Hello, Erin.
Hello.
I have a question to you. Talking to many parents in our town, and I just, as I understand, there has been a problem for quite a bit. That when parents want to try to help their kids, there is no really information available for them on what was taught, for example, 2 months ago, where their children missed out. So are you planning, as a result of your work, to provide us with some kind of site? I don't know how it will look, but so some source of information where parents can go indefinitely back as whatever month, 2 months last year, and find out what exactly, which moment their kids missed, and so parents could be involved by helping their children. And as I understand, there is some not very clear, always not very clear what the homework is, only children know. I'm not saying all the time, but it happens. So that parents would be more involved, or at least would have a chance to be involved, because now it's very hard for parents to get involved because of the lack of information. What's your plan about it?
Yep. So for the first part, having a published curriculum will definitely address that. So as we work through the units, we will be publishing. Everything will be published. So the units, I mean, you guys will approve, but the units will be published. You will see the units. That way you'll have access, like parents will be able to access and see what's prior scope and sequences. You'll see what was done before, what was done after. So you'll have access to that information. But in addition, once we have the curriculum really in place and it is published, the really important aspect is going to be, I mean, I called them parent academies, where we brought parents in and really had them immersed in the same way we teach the kids, really getting the parents in, because math is very different nowadays, right? The way we were taught math is not at all how we teach math. So really bringing the parents in and working with them to show them the same strategies and ways we teach. So I think that's going to be a key component in bridging that gap that you're talking about, as we work through the curriculum and have it published, and again build the capacity of teachers in this science of reading.
Thank you, Erin, for your presentation this evening. We enjoyed it, and we look forward to having you on board. I'm sure we'll get a nice curriculum out of this. I'd like to have you provide Phil, Superintendent Stevens, with the copy of your goals that you showed us. It didn't show up on my computer where I could read everything on there. I appreciate that.
Yep,
No.
I will.
No.
I'll share all the information. I'll email it out to the board. Already made myself a note.
Okay. Also, developing the curriculum, which is a massive job. How are you meeting with the staff? Are you going to use professional development days for the development of some of the curriculum, or are you going to meet with them after school? When are you going to put all of these objectives in place? And also, are you going to write the curriculum, or are the staff going to write it out and develop it?
So technically I'll be actually like putting it in the templates, but they're going to weigh in, and the staff is multi-tiered. So I work directly and very frequently with the stipended staff. So there's a stipended person for each subject area. So for instance, Kristen Stevens is ELA, and currently that's been our huge focus. So I've been meeting with her almost 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week. where social studies, again, we're trying to get ELA before, so social studies I've met with once already, and we're meeting again this week. So depending on the subject area, I meet with the stipended person, and we really go, that's where I do the deep dive, and we do a bulk of the work. And then the plan is to share it and get teacher feedback, you know, grade level wise. So by grade level or department for unified arts. So we'll have it looked at vertically by department, and we'll have it looked at horizontally for teachers to weigh in. But a bulk of the work is going to be done of the stipended people and by them and myself.
Okay, thank you.
Every second she has, Herb, she's trying to steal that time. And I think I saw your hand going, so I just clicked.
Okay, Ann,
mute button.
you're next. Ann, go ahead.
Erin, I just want to thank you for your collaborative approach to this, where everybody's involved, everybody has input, and everybody will work on it together. So thank you for that approach. I think it's going to be really effective.
Thanks, you're welcome. It's a great team, great staff, like great staff. So excited.
Well, thanks for coming, Aaron. I said that, you know, when you were done, feel free to enjoy the rest of your night. You're welcome to stay with the Board of Ed tonight, but I understand if you need to hit the road, you've had a long day already. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
It looks like Donna has put her hand up a couple times.
I thought she was clapping.
I'm not sure.
I was raising my hand.
Sorry.
So
I can't
I just, before Erin goes, and by the way, I do appreciate your excitement and your energy level. It is a very positive thing to see. Phil, you had sent out a letter about center school's principal. Did I miss, is it correct that Erin's going to be doing a couple days in that position? So my concern is this. One is she has a lot on her plate. And so I don't think that it's necessarily fair or appropriate to take her away from what we hired her to do another job. And the other thing is, and correct me because I may not be correct on this, but my understanding is one of the things that enabled us to afford Erin was some grant type money because of getting people up to speed related to the COVID stuff. So are we going to have to allocate, first of all, is that true?
Yes, it's all from grant funding.
Okay, so then are we going to have to allocate some of her salary away from that, because being a principal of a school is not have any, I mean, we've always had a principal of a school. So this, to me, that doesn't fit under the same umbrella. And I don't want to cheat her time that she really needs to do her job. And I also don't want to be stuck paying for something that we shouldn't be, you know, because of how her time is allocated.
No, Don, and I was going to talk about it in my superintendent's report. I'm glad to share it now. So obviously this is a conversation I had with Erin before. I didn't just pop it on her and she's on screen smiling and nodding her head yes. One of the things that we talked about was we have an interim principal, Mary Beth Moyer. She is the head principal in that building. She is the principal of that building. And what I asked Erin if she was willing to do was basically just have office hours there on the days where Mary Beth is not there. So Erin is on site at center school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the majority of her work on those days remains focused on curriculum. So she's able to get into classrooms, she's able to meet with teachers, she's doing all of those things. She's just doing it in a different location. And the reason for that is just in case something comes up, there's an emergency, we have an administrator on site. If there's something simple, discipline comes up, she may be able to snap her fingers and deal with it. But if it's something larger, she's taking some notes and passing it along to Mary Beth to take care of. So she is in the principal's office, but her primary role, and this is why I think she agreed to it, was because I have really minimal supervisory expectations during that time as far as the school. There's an admin in the building. And the primary is that she's there to continue the curriculum work that she's been assigned to do. Erin, you can chime in on that and share what it's looked like so far. I mean, you've been in for a few days already. Yes, sorry.
Bill, I had a question too that I wanted to raise. I was going to raise it later on the agenda, but you've brought it up now. So, and that's in regard to Mary Beth. She'll be working on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Correct.
And won't be working on Tuesday and Thursday. Now she's coming in as a principal,
Absolutely.
and the as far as salary is concerned, she's working 3 days a week.
That's correct.
Are we compensating for 3 days a week?
That
Or
is
for
correct.
5 days a week?
3 days a week. Yep, we compensate her on a daily basis. If something comes up and she can give us a fourth day, we do that. But the minimum right now is 3 days, and that's what we compensate her for. And really, this is obviously Mary Beth was there already at center school. The last time we had an interim principal, she jumped right in. She's well liked. She knows the routine, and knowing that we had a week before school started, to find an interim and someone that could go and take off right away, she was willing to do that. I was very glad for that. And honestly, if Erin was not willing to sit in that space and just be able to work there during that time, and I said this blanket to Erin, I wouldn't have done it. And so Mary Beth is the principal there. Erin obviously is a colleague as an administrator, but the primary principal in that building is Mary Beth Moyer.
So Erin is assuming extra duties.
She doesn't have an office at center, and this is something that is always challenging.
Should be in the cart or somewhere.
Well, and this is why. So when that office is open on Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Yeah.
that's where she's able to be. And when you only put someone in one building, it's it's hard to set up shop and get feedback from staff and have meetings. And now she's available at center 2 days a week, and our staff knows that. I think that's beneficial to her. Again, she's doing. You'll see her 90-day plan. She's gathering all sorts of data, which is an immensely important part of the process for curriculum writing. She has to have the information, and being on site is allowing her to do that. So Erin, you can chime into that.
Yeah, I would ditto everything Phil said. So one, Mary Beth is definitely takes the lead. We work very well together and very collaboratively, but I will we have a notebook that goes back and forth, and we'll text each other. So if something comes in or a parent needs to call, I forward that to Mary Beth. She really is the lead. I do support, like I said, anything immediate, but honestly, the last 2 days I've been able to work the entire, like Kristen and I met for, I think it was 3.5 hours to really work through this letters training. So it's, I will say I do see it as a very positive opportunity being there. I really am able to get into the classrooms. I'm able to see the systems and structures of the school. I've been able to really get, kind of down and dirty with the SRBI process and everyone in it because I'm on site. So it's really been beneficial in this like understanding and information gathering phase. It's also really helped me build a great rapport with the staff. So I'm really enjoying getting to know each one of them and understanding, really being able to capitalize on their strengths. I kind of can see who to go to for different things already. So it really has been, it has not, and trust me, if it gets too much or I feel something, I will make sure to tell Mary Beth and Phil, I promise.
Thank you very much.
So in essence, you will be the principal of center school when you're there. But the duties of a principal include evaluation, for example. Have you already decided who's going to do the evaluation of staff and things like that? Or is that, and also parents will be coming in too, probably for counseling and things of that nature.
So I set up the evaluation process, Herb. So, and this is, again, we didn't want to take away Erin's time from the 3 years we have committed to.
Right.
And so she's only evaluating the staff members that have stipends, because those are the people that she's working the most with, directly with on a regular basis. That's who she'll do our observations on, because it makes sense for her to work directly with those people and do those evaluations. but for the most part, and Aaron knows this, if something comes up and I need to step over there, I'm glad to do that as well. And you know, we'll take that on a day-to-day basis. And you know, we have an agreement, like we're gonna make this work so that she can get the work done that we're asking her to complete. And it's not been an issue at all yet.
Mhm. Today's a perfect example, actually. I relaunched letters training at Hall. So, you know, at the end of the day, I went over to Hall to make, you know, to launch that, and we had support at the school. So definitely
Right.
working out all that.
Okay. Sounds good. Looks like we have all the bases covered.
And I'll share if it's not working, I will share that. It's important for you to know that.
Mhm. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Aaron. And
Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome.
I think we're ready to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is communications. I have a couple of letters. One of them is a letter from Kathleen Kenyon, the parent of a student who's in CES and two students in CES. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to read the whole letter because the board has already received this, I believe.
Correct.
I'll just read the first sentence of each paragraph. I write to share my deep dismay at the discussion that occurred at the 8/10/21 Board of Education meeting. The discussion centered on the value of diversity and inclusivity. And the other is she took exception to the board chair stating that there should be a focus on traditional academic subjects instead of multicultural and social emotional learning. And as the last paragraph, as a professional, I work in the realm of discrimination and harassment prevention. And I can assure you the lack of multicultural education with a focus on social and emotional learning is having a negative impact on the adult workplace. And another letter from a board member. This is to Phil and Herb. I am very short. I am requesting a list of all clubs, sports, and extra activities which are available in both of our schools during the last school year, as well as those you anticipate to be offered during the 2021-2022 school year. Please put the question about all of the above activities on the agenda for the next regular Board of Ed meeting. Also, please be certain to provide us with the requested list at least 3 business days prior to the regular scheduled Board of Education meeting. Thank you in advance. Respectfully, Elena Tessa. And I think that's all I had. Bill, did you get any?
No, I think this is what I got too.
Okay, moving on to the superintendent's report.
Yep.
A through H. I'll read this so the public will have an idea of what we're going to cover. School opening 2021-2022, enrollment update, staffing, professional development 2021-2022, fire marshal inspection, Board of Ed facilities walkthrough, Kevin Lagarde field ed dedication, and clubs and sports. Phil, you'd like to address this?
So I'll start with the school opening for 21-22. We have had a good start to the school year. We were able to host what I'll say is an altered version of our meet and greet prior to have students into the buildings prior to the first day of school. Our staff and students have been, I will say, they've been in great spirits to be in school, despite that first day of the flooding that we had the night before. And center school lost power the first day for approximately 90 minutes. It was supposed to be 30 minutes as students arrived. It turned into 90 minutes. And I'll tell you, the staff did a tremendous job. The kids did a tremendous job just keeping things upbeat. And I mean, they continued the day with the emergency lights for a short period of time, like nothing was wrong. I actually overheard a kindergarten student say, I wonder if it's like this every day. And the answer was no. I will tell you, it's been extremely busy in my office with contact tracing. Today is our 8th day of school. We have had 3 positive cases, separate cases. We've had 18 individuals quarantined since the start of school. We have seen other positive cases that are outside of school that thankfully did not require us to contact trace in school. I will tell you that I sent out a letter today saying that we had 4 brand new contact tracing close contacts identified today. As soon as I sent it out, I got a 5th one. And so it's out there. And I will say we greatly appreciate the staff and the families that are following our stay home if you're sick policy. Just reminding families that they could be the difference right now, and staff, you could be the difference if we are able to remain open, because it is a lot of work to contact trace, and it is very easy for things to get out of hand quickly with people being in quarantine.
Phil,
We've had some.
were the cases in the hall school or center school?
So typically I don't announce it in my letter, but it is something that we identify through the state. So I can share that with the board. It's been in both buildings. It's not one or the other. It's been in both buildings.
Phil, did we send last year we had a draft, multi-page draft of guidelines to follow in relation to the COVID-19. Did we produce one of those and distribute it to the parents this year?
Are you talking about our reopening document?
Yes.
So it's on our website. We still have updates. We're still waiting on several things from the state. And as we get them, we put them up. But the state is supposed to be updating. I'll give you an example. We're still waiting on the music. There's an addendum 5 that just came out about quarantining. We just got that. We're waiting on a music one. I think it's addendum 9. And as they give us new information, you just cross your fingers and hope you haven't put things into place that are in contradiction to it, because you have to change if they are. We have 2 weeks, about 2 weeks until the mask piece is out of date. We have no information if it's going to be extended or not. So we live basically, I had a Department of Public Health meeting this morning. We get new information on a daily basis, and we just keep adding it into our document. But parents have access to that document. They got a big letter at the start of school with a lot of the new protocols and just explanation, and they know to reach out if they have questions. By the way, any board members that are off camera.
The other towns, area being hit the same way as we are?
Is every town being hit the same way we are?
Yeah.
Yes. Hebron closed one of their schools last week.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Elena has her hand up.
2 questions. The COVID cases, are they mostly from staff or from children? It's number 1.
I'm not going to answer that question.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I don't know. I'm sorry if
It's
that's
okay. I just want to maintain confidentiality.
sure. Okay. So another question is, it looks like we are 8 days in school and there are so many cases and everyone is in masks. I guess masks don't do too much. Maybe we should try to in future to consider some kind of freedom for people to choose if they want their children to be in masks or not. I'm just throwing it out there because the cases are right there and everyone is in masks.
So it's important to realize that the
Mandated.
cases that I'm identifying are not necessarily from school transmission. So when I contact trace a case, and I'll give you a fake example. I go into a school, I'm COVID positive, I get tested, I notify the superintendent's office or the nurse's office, and contact tracing starts. We are not seeing transmission in schools. And I would say it's largely because of masks. Where we are seeing transmission is outside of school. When we see transmission right now, and you know, Bill Stevens goes back to his home, I'm COVID positive, and next thing you know, my family members are COVID positive, and my wife is COVID positive. That's where we're seeing it. Same thing if it were a staff member, as an example. But in the cases, and this was the same thing we saw last year, which is why I was glad to see one of the restrictions lifted about 6 feet to 3 feet for students, is because masked, we were not seeing transmission in school. And I think that's one of the reasons why. I don't know what's going to happen, if there's going to be something coming out of the governor's office or not, Elena. We'll have to act based upon that. If nothing comes out of the governor's office, it will be on the local district. It'll be on the Board of Education to determine your next steps. Keep going.
Yes, keep going. Thank you.
And if you're off camera and you're a board member, I just can't see you. So you just want to pop on for a second if you need me. I do want to share that we've had some challenges opening with our internet. We have had some malicious attacks that were impacting our service. It is not outside of Willington. It is coming from inside Willington. We are monitoring it. Novus is on it. Our provider CEN is on it. And they are investigating. What is happening is someone's basically flooding our network, and it basically crashes our system for a short period of time. We're talking about, 5 seconds to 60 seconds, and it's impacting the town, and it's impacting the schools. And so at some point, I think the police will be involved with this to investigate. But I just want to let you know what's going on. We have put some additional measures in place. Novus has, and it seems to be working. But as of yesterday, we were still having multiple attacks throughout the day. And I don't want to share any more about how they're doing it because I don't want to advertise it. But we have a good idea what's going on, and that they're chasing it down. So FYI on that. Some good news about opening. Boys and girls soccer teams. We had no sports last year. They've started back up. We have a new boys soccer coach, Kyle Biliak, and Jacob Hall, who's coached basketball for us in the past, is helping Kyle out, and so is our girls soccer coach. We have a brand new athletic director. It's a name you're going to know. Erica Bouchard has stepped up to help us out, and a big shout out to her for stepping up to do it. We greatly appreciate that. She's been working extremely hard to make sure our student athletes can participate in sports. I will talk more about transportation when I get to that point in the meeting. As far as our enrollment update, Center School has 199 students and Hall School has 184 students. We currently have 3 outplacements in district. We actually budgeted for 2. We have a total of 386 students. We expected 412, and I wanted to share kind of some of the things about the why. So we know right now we have 10 homeschool students that we expected to return, and for the most part, it's mainly because of COVID or the restrictions. So every single one of them we expected to return. We have 8 students currently that are in school choice. And then we usually take 20 preschool students. This year, we only accepted 14. Again, because of when you start talking about 3- and 4-year-olds, you talk about COVID, we took smaller groups. And so, there's more students there that we typically would see. So obviously we're tracking this. You have seen the real estate flying in and out of selling houses and people buying houses. We're, seeing that in Wellington as well. But we'll continue to track it and see where it goes. And I'll be interested to see the bounce back, if it bounces back post-COVID at this time. As far as staffing goes, we had two paraprofessionals, Graham Frassinelli and Kristen Angelonis. They resigned prior to the start of school. They went into their specific fields of study. So again, I always celebrate that when someone works for us for a while and then they leave us to go into their specific field of study. That's what we expect people to do. We hired Brittany Bassett, who was a prior student of mine, which makes me feel really old. And we also lost our art teacher, Allison Spector. She resigned at the start of the year, and we have two separate substitutes covering right now, Sharon Punty and Sherry Kraus. They're both certified teachers. One is certified in art. The other one's just a certified teacher. They're covering the open art position while we search for to fill that space. There's a lot of art openings and not a lot of applicants coming in. So if you know anybody, please let them know. We hired Mark Bartomelli as our 7th grade ELA teacher. He replaced Bridget O'Connor. We still have a 0.6 utility staff open. If you know someone that's looking for a 3-day-a-week position, we have that opening. And again, as you know, I just mentioned about Mary Beth. Rich Napoli left center school. Mary Beth Moyer came in as our interim principal through December. She's teaching courses the other days. She's working Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I will tell you, she responds to email at the snap of a finger on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So she might not be in the physical building, but she's working. She is paid those 3 days, and Erin is covering the other 2. We will be posting the principal position at the end of this month. We have a timeline that we've already put together that would have us hiring a new principal for the start of the new year, January 3rd-ish, something like that. We will need a board member or 2 to take part in that search process. If there's anyone interested, I don't know if you want to just say it now or if you want to contact myself or Herb, however you want to do it.
Ann?
And
Once
saying
again.
yes. Let me unmute you, Ann.
Herb wants to.
I would be interested.
So Herb and Ann, anybody else interested?
I might be, we'll have to talk about time constraints before I can say definitely.
And I can share, if it helps, I can share the timeline because it is a comprehensive search process.
Thank you.
Yep.
Phil, on the, when you're talking about enrollment, you mentioned that there's only 14 preschoolers were admitted to the program.
Yep.
I had a conversation with somebody in town pretty recently, and one of their concerns, was the fact that our kindergartners were kind of behind, and that way. And I said, well, what do you attribute that to? And she had 2 different things that she attributed to, but one of them was the small number of preschool students that we had. And I don't know what other school districts do, but she said Ashford wrote a grant every year, and then they were able to have a more robust preschool program. So since you just said that we've cut down the number of preschoolers that we let in, what steps are going to be taken so that when the little guys and gals come into kindergarten, that they're not already behind the ball?
So, I mean, I'm glad to do a presentation on our preschool program or have Stephanie Bergen do it. We are a 50-50 program, meaning identified with needs and then models. And so during COVID, having 3- and 4-year-olds in large groups is hard. The other challenge, and we've talked about writing a grant for, there are state grants to extend your program, is you're limited on space at center school. because every classroom is maximized. And you obviously you need the specifics of a preschool bathroom. But that's something that, you know, we've talked about, just haven't been able to build it in. And your obligation as a board, your first service is, obviously, if you have students that are identified with special education needs, you're obligated to meet their needs at that age group. But otherwise, your first obligation is when they join kindergarten, and even that is optional. Parents don't have to send their kids to school for kindergarten. But we meet students where they are. That's why we have, why we need a really solid curriculum, why we have intervention supports, why we need our teachers to have the letters training to make sure they're master teachers in reading, all of those things. So it's, you know, it's just like meeting kids where they are in any other grade right now, that maybe missed out on some things last year and from March of what was it, 20? But meeting them where they are is what we're looking to do.
Okay. One of the things you just said, I do take exception to, only, and maybe things have changed, but one of my children, I did not want to send to full day kindergarten, and the principal at Center School at the time made it very clear that my child would not be allowed to go to first grade if I did not send them to full day kindergarten. So I hope that that's changed.
You legally do not have to send your child to school, I believe, until they're 7 years old.
Yeah, well, legally and what they tell you are not necessarily the same thing. So thank you.
Tracy, I think you had your hand up.
Tracy?
Yeah, I didn't end it as well. I had a question about something different. Or not even a question, just a consideration, I guess. I'm not sure why Ms. Spector, you didn't mention where she's going or why, and it doesn't really matter. It's just that I'm noticed over the past 10 years that we've had multiple art teachers. I think at least 5. Sometimes we've had several in the same year. That changed since what was her name? It was Elizabeth's 4th grade teacher.
You shouldn't mention names, Tracy.
Anyway, the art teacher, well, she retired or she left, and I believe it was through attrition. I can't go back in the minutes to find it because it was from 10 years ago and the minutes are not accessible online anymore. That maybe it was through attrition, maybe it was a different reason, but in any case, we went from 2 art teachers in district to 1. And I don't know if it was, I don't think it was 2 full-time. I think it was maybe 1.6 or something like that at the time. And the expectation of having 1 teacher work through 9 grades from kindergarten to 8th grade in 2 different buildings with all of the expectations. And I'm guessing that the art curriculum has increased and become more robust than it maybe was 10 years ago. I'm wondering if there's consideration to possibly, now that we're, building a new curriculum, think about having more than 1 teacher, because even if we have another building, we're still going to have the same amount of, if we went to 1 building, we'd still have the same amount of grades that you're trying to prep for. And we value arts in Wellington, and we have 3 music teachers, not 3 full music teachers, is it 2.6 or something? And we have 1 art teacher for the same amount of students. And I understand that it's different in music because you're talking about chorus versus band, but it just seems like maybe we're putting pressure on 1 individual to do a lot, that maybe 2 individuals could split somehow, and maybe we could keep those quality teachers, because I know Ms. Spector was, phenomenal from the presentations that she gave us and the work that I saw kids doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Big loss. So I'll share with you. Yes, it used to be 1.6. Yes, it was through attrition and decrease in students in the number of sections. Yes, we've heard 2 buildings has been challenging, and we've heard that from several art teachers, not just 1. One of the things we did schedule wise, and this is, I mean, I think it makes sense, is that just like anybody that travels, we stopped having midday travel. So you're not in one school in the morning, the other school in the afternoon, and traveling every day. We made it so that really it's a 0.6 and a 0.4. 2 days a week you're at center, and 3 days a week you're at hall, to help with that. Yes, you see every student in the district in that period of time. It's mixed, Tracy. Some districts, I will tell you, you see 600 students in 1 week. Some districts, you only see a portion of that. So there's no good answer for it. What I will tell you is that I recognize that as well. And when I posted the art position, you have approved a 1.0 art position. But the way I posted it to try and attract more candidates, it hasn't worked so far, is that I posted it as a 0.6, 0.4, or 1.0. And the reason I did that is because if we get someone who's been in the business for 25 years that doesn't want to work every day of the week, but only wants to work elementary, wants to work 2 days a week, and they're interested in 0.4, and our pool is reasonable and we could do that, I would consider that. And it wouldn't change anything for us cost-wise, but it would allow for a lot more flexibility at the school level, and it would allow a lot more flexibility for that person and not to have to worry about all the students. So, we've done a lot of things just to try and balance it out. Some districts are more, some districts are less, but I recognize the same issue. So thanks for sharing.
Elena?
Yes, I have a quick comment and question I did not ask earlier. I'm sorry. But it's about masking again. Some parents observed that children were outside with state teachers, and teachers were without masks, standing next to kids while all kids were masked. So as I understand, children are allowed to have masks off outside?
Correct.
Oh, no. So why was it the situation that children are in masks and teachers are not in masks? So outside.
Yeah, there could be a lot of situations. So if any two people are close to each other, they have to be masked outside if they're under that distance. If they're maintaining that distance, they can take their masks off. If they're getting back into line and the teacher's away from them and students are starting to come closer to each other, they're required to mask up again. And the same thing with adults. If they're, you see me on the sidewalk in the morning in front of Hall School, I don't wear my mask because I'm not near anybody and I'm outside. But if I go near another person, I put my mask on. And so as inside, you do not have the choice.
Yeah.
You have to wear your mask inside, except for eating, drinking, snack, lunch, things like that.
Well, I wonder if you can somehow just emphasize it to the teachers, because there were quite a few parents who observed that teachers were very close to children, while teachers did not have masks on. So it was outside. So if you could please address it there among teachers. Thank you.
Sure.
Ann, you had a question?
Yes, this is going back to our preschool conversation. That might be something we want to keep in mind for the school building committee. And then at some point when it comes back to the Board of Ed, maybe we could consider allotting some space and then we would be able to apply for a grant or whatever. So just a thought looking ahead.
You would definitely consider that when you write ed specs, if you decide on a renovation or a new building, that would be part of that conversation for sure. Can I move along, Herb?
Okay, if there are no more questions on that issue, let's move forward.
All right, so I'm on to professional development. So we had a great opening for professional development. And Aaron mentioned some of this. The staff received PD on their new Promethean boards. Second step, IEP training, some of the special education specific training around behavior intervention, DCF training if they needed it, and any of the other items that they need for starting school. Over the next 2 years, staff will be, and not all staff, but the majority of staff will be completing the letters training, and that's language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. We have a 2-year commitment to that process. for that professional learning, as teachers really, they're the most essential piece, the factor in a student's reading success. And we need to make sure that teachers have a deeper understanding of the science of reading. I would argue that I'm not so sure that teachers coming out of a college prep program have the experiences they need to teach reading at the master level. If you only have 1 or 2 courses, you're not a master in teaching reading. And, you know, Tracy, as you go for your master's, your entire program is probably around this, right? So it's something to think about. That letters training is paid for through the ESSER 3 grant. We're also going to be working on the Portrait of the Graduate this year. We're going to be using grant funding for work with the Great Schools Partnership. They're going to help lead us through the remainder of the Portrait of the Graduate work to gather stakeholder feedback and develop expectational targets for each of the skills across all of the grade levels. That work is going to be integrated into the curriculum work. So we're not creating another item that's competing for time in our busy schedules. And that partnership, again, is also funded by the ESSER grant. We're also going to be working with the Great Schools Partnership on assessment. E.O. Smith, Mansfield, Willington, and Ashford, we're working on a joint effort across the districts to create what we'll call We Believe statements tied to student-centered assessment practices. Collaboratively, we are going to create common assessment language so that we assure that we have aligned practices. Anytime we hear someone say, my child wasn't prepared for high school, and we start to have conversation, it's typically around assessment and what they're prepared for and what they're not prepared for. And it's important for E.O. Smith to be part of that conversation as well. So again, that work will be tied to our curriculum work. The fire marshal inspection, our fire marshal is Dick Palmer. He completed his inspection on August 26th. He made a comment in his report that our maintenance staff does an outstanding job maintaining our school buildings. Gave a shout out to them, so thanks for that. Mr. Palmer, he identified 3 issues in his letter. The first issue was some failing emergency lights that we had. It's when the power goes out. And so we replace those as they go out. And he knows that. The second issue was, so we had some of our maintenance items still in the hallways of the buildings. And so he just said, make sure they're removed when the school starts. And we always do that. They just happen to be out still. And the last item that he found was there was a door latch that was not working properly. And so that was a repair. The item F, the BOE facilities walkthrough, I would just invite you, if you are interested in walking the buildings in small groups, just to get a sense of what it looks like with COVID protocols right now. If you want to do it during the day or after the day, you could get a sense of what classrooms look like. You could see the new Promethean boards. You get a sense of any of the improvements that we've made. I'd be happy to do that if the board is interested.
Okay, is the board interested in doing this at the present time?
I would be. I would be.
And you're in the school buildings all the time anyway, aren't you?
Just
Laurie?
raise your hands if you're interested for me. And I can just do it, as I know some people have already recently walked through. So Donna Cook, is that a clap for yes, you'd like to?
Well, that's the only thing I have that looks remotely like a hands.
Perfect. All right, so Donna and Laura, Herb, you want to do it too?
I think I'll give it a try, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm glad to do that, and I'll arrange with the 3 of you. If anybody else at a different time wants to go, I just want to keep it small so we don't have a quorum. Okay. The next item is item G, Kevin Laguerre field dedication. The baseball field dedication for Kevin Laguerre. He was our HMS baseball coach. He passed away in February 2019. I mentioned that. The field dedication was August 28th. It was cold. It was kind of drizzly out. We had actually a great crowd come out to the town office building field. It was family there, friends, former players. It was a really nice ceremony. And again, despite those chilly conditions, we had a great day. So the nice commemoration for him. And then the last, I think it's the last item on here, was about clubs and sports. Elena had asked about clubs and sports offerings. we have fall, winter, and spring sports. In the fall, we have boys and girls soccer. In the winter, we have boys and girls basketball. And in the spring, we have baseball and softball. Regarding clubs, we haven't been operating clubs at center school really, but we'll be introducing clubs in the near future. Mr. Phillips did something small, the PE teacher, but haven't gotten clubs going there since COVID. And HMS in 1920, we offered clubs in the fall they had 6 options that were offered for the clubs. It was a buddies club, which is like working collaboratively to improve interpersonal skills. We had a nature trail club. We had a news club, a robotics club, a school mural club, and then we had a writing club. We did not offer clubs in the spring of 2020, obviously because of COVID. And then in 2021 school year, HMS offered 3 separate virtual performance club opportunities. They formed in December of 2020. They formed the Gay Straight Alliance, the GSA, and they operated through the end of the school year. And then I am looking to form, I'm just looking at my notes, sorry, this year, add some more clubs. And I could spin my computer. I've had this on my whiteboard for a while now. We're trying to branch out and hopefully bring in some community members to operate some new clubs like RC cars, virtual reality club. We have the goggles, a gaming club. I already had a parent reach out who's interested in operating a running club, a climbing club. We have the rock wall there. Typically, we try and offer clubs where there's student interest. If they voice their opinion and they say, we really would like this opportunity, we find a way to get it going as long as it's safe for them. And obviously, if there's any community members on the call that are interested in discussing a potential club, art, whatever it may be, love to hear from you. Contact my office. The only caveat to that is any person who operates a club, it is a paid position, must be fingerprinted and pass a background check and follow our COVID protocols. So those are our clubs at this point in time.
Okay, you mentioned softball and baseball.
Yeah, that's just the sports for the spring.
Yeah.
Elena has her hand up, Herb.
Elena?
Yeah. I think that's it.
Sorry, I had to mute myself. I was coughing. I have 2 questions. So number 1 question is personal to Phil. I don't know, you so easily listed all the clubs. Was it so difficult to send it to us prior to the meeting so we would have time to think about it and to analyze what we have? Because I do not consider this just naming that you fulfill what I asked. And I do not like the attitude in our schools towards the clubs, because I remember 2 years ago, I requested a special meeting for the clubs. I requested. Then the meeting was held without notifying me. And now all I asked is a list of clubs. And before the meeting, at least 3 days. I don't understand how difficult it could be just to mail everyone. That's my comment. I do not have positive comment on this kind of business. But my second question to you, how do you, those clubs which you named, do you in any way advertise them for kids? All of them, like robotics or whatever you have,
So
mathematical?
at Hall School, they get a list of clubs that are being offered. They also, I believe they've also asked for feedback about what clubs they would like to be offered. And if there's a staff member who can offer that club, they do so. So
Okay,
there's a questionnaire.
Okay, so my then my last question. You mentioned I really would like to listen more careful on the clubs which you named. So if you could please still email it to me at least, the list of all those clubs. But you named one class, Straight and Gay Alliance.
Yeah.
for the high school, for the whole school, means for 10 years old. My question is, what educational point is there? It sounds to me like a clear brainwashing, or it is anything but education. Plus, as far as I'm aware, that during last year, it was very widely advertised on a regular basis, a few times a week, on the school radio. So I do not understand the necessity on doing it for 10, 11, 12 years old children. So I would like a comment on that. And I would like to say that I would consider a special meeting. I would like to request a special meeting regarding all the clubs available, and particularly about this club, if we want to continue this club to be running in our schools. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
That'll be up to you.
Phil, are all these clubs advertised over the PA system or just selective?
I don't know that what radio she's talking about. I'm assuming you're talking about the school news. So any club that's offered, just like if Mr. Phillips does a show and there's tryouts, it would be on the news. Sure, it would be on there.
Okay, are there any other comments, questions? Okay, Elena, what was your request, Elena?
Yes, I would like to have a meeting regarding all the clubs, and particularly regarding the Straight and Gay Alliance class. If our school system, middle school, needs to have a club like this. Unless we can maybe vote on it right now. I can make a motion.
I think it would be prudent to
No,
have
I
a
mean-
special meeting.
Donna?
I said, I think it would be prudent to wait till Phil gets us the list of everything and we
Yeah.
have a chance to think about it and have the special meeting.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Phil, can you give us a list of it and everything and any information you have before we move on any of this?
We'll move on any what? You're really, we're talking about one club. Let's just be honest here.
I know, yeah.
Yes, we are talking about that club because I think it could be very harming for little kids.
There's also a lot of research behind that. A lot of clubs about it having a GSA at the middle school level. And that there's a lot of research about students that participate in the types of things that they're doing there is around school climate and acceptance. It's not promoting any specific thing.
Oh, yes, it does. It promotes. And we removed the Bible totally from schools. And I'm sorry, I'm a devoted believer. And it's 100% contradicts on what's in the Bible. So I will be standing against all those organizations in our schools till my last breath. Sorry. So I would like to request either we discuss this question now because it's still in the agenda, clubs. And maybe we can vote if we continue to hold that club, or we have a special meeting to discuss all those clubs, including this particular club.
I think Laura has her hand up.
Laura, do you have a hand up? I can't.
Yeah, I do have my hand up, Herb. So I have to say, Elena, that I would be as strongly on the other side as you, as the mother of a gay daughter and the teacher of many gay children who were in middle school and trying to figure out who they are and their identity. Many of those children, when they are not accepted for who they are, end up committing suicide. So having a gay-straight alliance is not promoting some lifestyle. It's acknowledging that children are different. The straight alliance is right, that you can be straight and be an ally of people who are gay. Because my daughter is gay doesn't mean I'm gay, doesn't mean my son is gay. But we accept each other for our different ways that our brains and our bodies work. So, if you want to ban a club where people are simply saying, we accept you as you are, it does not say, oh, you should be gay, right? Because it's not a choice. It is the way you are born. So I will fight it just as strongly on the other side as you will. And by the way, it is not in the Bible. And if you're going by the teachings of Jesus, then it's completely antithesis to what he was saying, to accept people and to love other people. So if you want to read some literal reading of the Bible from the Old Testament, which is not the Christian part of the Bible, then you can bring that in. But if you're talking about what Jesus taught, then that's absolutely against Christianity, true Christianity that Christ taught. So I don't want to get into religion, because religion does not belong in schools. There is a separation of church and state.
Phil,
But-
what I think we'll do is we'll put this off for now. You send us that list first, and then we'll make a decision as to whether we have a special meeting or put it on the agenda at our future meeting. Okay? And that way, it's a very controversial area for some people, and there are pros and cons, and let's sit on this just for a short spell, and then see where we go with it. Okay, but this was offered last year, so it's being offered again this year.
Sorry, I
Okay.
lost you.
Can you do that?
Can you say that again, please?
Pardon?
Can you say that again? I just lost you for a minute. Sorry.
Yeah, just send us a list of the clubs and any information you have on them, and we'll look at that. And then at some point, we'll decide whether we want a special meeting or we'll put this on the docket for a regular meeting.
Yep. No problem.
Okay. Moving on to financial report. September financial report. Everyone, I believe, had a copy of this. And
So all the notes are on there, Herb,
yeah,
and it's pretty, I mean, you can see that really, I think the notes are pretty self-explanatory. If there's an open position and money's not encumbered, obviously outplacements, we don't have bills, or that's not encumbered at this point in time. And then what's typical, you can see Donna will be, for program 7, Donna will be encumbering the money for heating fuel. It just hadn't been done yet as of the writing of this. They're still trying to close the books for 2021. But for the most part on here, it's pretty consistent for this time of year. And we'll see where fringe goes, if it's going to go up or down. That program 10, it just depends on, as people come into district. If a person left that didn't take insurance, and then we have somebody come in that does take insurance, that's a type of swing that we see on program 10. So that'll be cleaned up once all the settle of staffing is done, and Donna can clean that up.
Phil, under the curriculum and staff development, we approved 56,000. There's 56,000 still in there, and we didn't expend anything. How did we pay for the professional development of our staff on the 28th, 29th, and 30th at the beginning of the year?
So there's 26,000 encumbered in program 6 in curriculum staff development. I could have to go back and look through. I have to imagine that is stipend positions, but all of the professional development, the big things that we're doing with the Great School Partnership, as well as what we're doing with the letters training, is all written into grants. It's a lot of money. It's in the ESSER 3
So
grant.
we haven't paid for any of that yet.
Oh, yeah, it's paid for. You don't see that funding in your budget because it's paid for directly out of that grant. And so I think the ESSER 3 grant is like 570,000 is something like that, 565. and a good bulk of that funding was used for the director of curriculum instruction for 3 years, and that's all the contractual things, benefits, salary, all of that. But there was some funding that came out of ESSER 3, out of the what we'll call the coronavirus relief funds, that is paying for some really high functioning professional development.
So we have 30,000 left in that account.
That's not encumbered, and that's typically what's in there, as there's contractual amounts for the administrators, there's contractual amounts for a lot of staff, to be honest with you, that's in their contracts. It says how much money they get for professional development, and I sign off. There's actually more being offered this year that's actually costs money. I sign off on those as they come to my desk, and so people can go off to complete professional development that we approve.
Okay. Under maintenance operations, it says that the funds left for supplies, we had 316,000 in there. We've encumbered 282. We're not, well, 210 rather. We have 19,000 left. Is that enough
Yes,
in the remaining?
that's typical for this time of year.
Unless
It's
we have something critical happen to some of our equipment?
Correct. So what you see in there is, if there's been summer projects that were, there's some funds used for that. There is, I think there's $7,000 in one of our ESSER grants for some more supplies. The majority of the money that has been encumbered there is actually salary for our custodial group.
Okay. Anyone else have a question or comment? Okay. Student activity fund.
Yep. So there's, I think you got these, and Brenda emailed these out. These have been a little quirky, to be honest with you, and simply because of COVID, where money came in for field trips, or we had to pay for transportation, but it was canceled, and we got some money back, but not all of it. So if you look at the Center School Student Activity Fund, the end of the year report, there's money that comes in for assemblies that comes from the PTA. The BSBA contract is what's in there. I think it used to be the soda machine. I think the money that comes in from that, we get some funds for it. We've actually had several donations and come from out of memorials that people have handed checks made out to student activity funds for really positive things for students. So that donations memorials is relatively new over the last probably 5 years. There's a field trip fund that's in there, and that's money that comes in and out as field trips happen. The library book fair, we get money in for basically selling books, and that money goes back out for library purposes. There's you can see some money in the miscellaneous rainy day. That's like if there's box top commissions that we get from the PTA, or we use Life Touch for our photos, and they give us some funds for things. We can adjust that. The school store that's there is a grade 4 managed store. They operate under their budget. They didn't run the school store last year. That's why you don't see a lot of expenses or deposits there. But typically they do a couple $1,000s, I would say, in movement. And we use some of the other funds, like the donations funds, the gift funds, to make sure they can buy the items they need for the store, and then they figure out what they have to sell them for to maintain their budget. And so Center School and the Hall School is the same thing. Like their overall ending balance, typically you can see some of these accounts, and because a lot of sports run through these accounts, student activity accounts, it's not uncommon, to be honest with you, to see $50,000 plus. in these accounts, or over $100,000 if you're bigger schools with big sports. So you can see, as you just go through, like each grade level on Hall School has an account, and it's typically for that grade level. The money moves with them as they come up. That's how, if they want to do a gift at the end of 8th grade, that's how they pay for it. And just the miscellaneous things that come through there. I mean, I think it's pretty clear based upon what it is. Anywhere you see negative balances at the beginning of the year, it was really because of COVID things. And I'll give you again an example is a group had to pay for a bus, and then COVID hit in 2020, and they got a portion back, and they were out some funds. So we ate some of that, meaning we used some funds from another program, that like the gift funds, to balance it out.
Did you email us a copy of that?
I think Brenda did. Did you not see a copy of this?
Yeah,
It came,
came in today.
all right, but
When was it mailed?
what if,
The mail today? I didn't get it.
I think Brenda emailed it today. I mean, this
Okay.
is I'm not sure if somebody's chiming in.
no, I was gonna say, this goes back to, like, I checked my email yesterday and it wasn't there. Either stuff needs to get pushed off to the next meeting, or we need it far enough ahead so that we can look at it. Would you mind sharing your screen so that I could see what it looks like, please?
Yeah, so let me see if I can pull it up. So this is can you see it, Donna?
Yeah, let me just move people's faces so I can see the whole thing.
So this is the center school one. This is much simpler, just because they don't have as many accounts and as many lines. I see a typo right there. But this is basically how they track what comes in and out, and if there's any transfers. Tell me when you want me to go.
What does BESB stand for?
So that's the soda machine money that's in the staff room. It's
Thank you.
actually the services for the blind.
Okay, I'm fine.
And then this is the whole school one. This is the one that has more lines, more money flows through this. So like when you see BOE account, sports officials, we pay, even though you budget for it, we pay sports officials out of the student activity account because they need a check. Otherwise, we'd have to set up a vendor account for every single umpire, referee for every game. So what that we do is we pay for out of student activity, and then student activity account provides the receipt, and the Board of Ed budget is then, that money is then transferred for that same amount into the student activity account to cover the sports officials. So it basically zeroes out.
So what happened that people had negative beginning balances?
That's the field trips and things. Those are the things that when they had COVID, things that like we had to work with like if you look at that 8th grade graduation, that was the group that when they were we spent money on their signs, their posters, and we used funds from like the gift account, or there was money transferred in to zero it out to balance it out. So when we had that what I'm going to call the COVID promotion ceremony, and we'd had every kid's picture across the front of Hall, that's where the money came from. And it was not something that you had budgeted for. So this is where it came from. We made it come out of grade 8, so it was clear that that's what it was. But then some of that money was transferred out of a different line to balance it out, such as donations or the gifts.
Where's the donations?
So if you see like a miscellaneous here, commissions, things like that, it might come out of that
Okay,
right there.
okay, so that's the donation.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'll check my email on that, Bill, see if I have it. at some point. Any other comments on the student activity account for now? Okay, we're moving on to committee reports. As far as I know, none of the committees met.
No, none of the committees met. I will be gathering the policy committee and the curriculum committee in the next few weeks. Brenda's going to be scheduling those meetings, and the policy committee will be starting work to address. We have a really outdated dress code policy, and it is in your policy. It's not in handbook policy. That is Ann, Herb, and Elena. So I've already gathered some model policies from around the state, and we'll be getting some feedback from students as part of that process, but that's something that we need to address. And then the curriculum committee, Laura, Ann, and Tracy, you're going to have your first meeting with Erin just to get some more details about what she was talking today, and talk through the process of approval and kind of get some more information about her timeline. So Brenda will be scheduling those.
Okay, new business, Phil. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 10th. Everyone, attachment number 2. Has everyone had an opportunity to read them? Read it? Any comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes, William Board of Education minutes of August 10th, 2021. Elena?
I second it.
Okay. Any comments? The motion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Michelle, hello.
Hi,
She
I'm
said
here.
it.
I said it quietly.
And
The only one I
motion-
wasn't sure about was Donna.
Oh,
Okay.
I said aye. I said yes.
Any abstentions? Motion,
Unanimous.
okay. Under new business, item B, legal update.
Yep. So you got the legal update. I think you all get the CABE guide. Did you all get that paper copy? I think you received that. Or it's like all of the legal updates that it probably came through your email with all the information on it. We have not received our legal update yet from our board attorney or the other. Every year, the education attorneys in the state pull together the updates and they put out the information with snapshots about what the new legislation means, what the impact is. I think because of COVID, they just haven't done it yet. They're still working on all of the things that, like we're going to get to in a couple of minutes about the vaccination thing. So they're doing all that. I will tell you that the CABE summary, and if you didn't get it, I can email it out to you. I think you all get it through the CABE email system. But some of the highlights that were approved include the creation, Herb, you mentioned, of a model curriculum for grades K to 8 that CSDE is going to develop. It's supposed to be by January 2023. And Herb, that you had asked a question, do boards have to use it? It's going to be a choice. You may use it, you don't have to. But that's supposed to be by 2023. Another highlight, there's the creation of a remote learning commission. And their aim is to provide recommendations for remote learning, and that's K to 12. So they're going to go through what they learned from the remote learning process, what worked, what didn't, and make recommendation. And then obviously this is pages long. The last item that I just wanted to highlight was the creation of a new Center for Literacy Research and Reading Success. They were given it, and this is an interesting one. The superintendents are kind of waiting to see where this is going. They were given a task of identifying reading curriculum models and programs to be used by boards of education. And so we're all curious if it's going to limit what program you either have to buy or be trained in, or if it's just going to be research-based. We're waiting to see that. I'm glad to share the additional legal updates as they come. If you want to just you know, if you haven't had a chance to look at this, I can send it out. You can put it on the agenda under old business next time. If there's any specific items you want me to gather more information about, and have our attorney look at and ask what does this legislation really mean? If I can't answer it, I'm glad to do that as well, but I just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to share it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next item.
Donna has her hand up, I think.
Donna, go ahead.
Okay, so for those of you who have not had the opportunity to read through this entire document, there's so much in here, and I had a whole bunch of spots where I had questions, you know, like, are we, and it would be something like, they say you have to do this, they give an effective date. I don't know if we're already doing it, if it's something we have to implement. And it was just, it's way too much to deal with on a short time period. And especially if everybody hasn't had the opportunity to read it. So it would be great if you could email out the thing again, because it was also in blueprint, which makes it, you know, if you want to photocopy something and take notes, it does not photocopy well. But Phil, what would be the most efficient way to deal with questions that I have? You know, I don't want to suck up 2 hours of a meeting going through stuff, but I had a lot of questions, so I'm not sure what the best way to do this is.
I appreciate that. I think the easiest way is anybody, if you want to email questions, I can pull all your questions into one kind of document and just put some answers out there. And if I need to get the attorney involved, I can get feedback from our attorney. And then, you know, it's easier to put the information back out to the board in a document. So that way you have your answers there. And then if you need additional conversation, that could happen at your board meeting. So that way, you know, you can hear each other talk or ask more questions. But again, a lot of that stuff is, you know, it's like when the legislation happens, it's kind of like the the vaccine mandate that came out for staff, and I'm going to be talking about it shortly. And then all the attorneys then suddenly said, okay, so this is what it means, this is what it doesn't mean, and they're providing guidance to districts, scrambling to get that information out the districts as fast as they can. So yeah, email. I can pull it all together if anybody has questions about specific ones. And the document I'm specifically talking about is this one, July 2021, the 2021 education law summaries. And again, typically we get an update from my association, from CAPS, from our board attorney, and Shipman and Goodwin. We get 3 separate ones in addition to this CABE one. We've not received any yet because it's been with COVID.
Okay. The other thing is,
Okay.
I did reach out to CABE because I was having trouble finding the way this booklet was explained to me is it's their summary. So it's their interpretation, but I wanted to look at something specifically. And one of the things I asked in the conversation with this very nice woman was if there was, this is like looking at alphabet soup for me. This is not my first language. So they have more initials for things than you would believe. And so I said, by any chances that it would be helpful the next time they do this, if there was a list of common acronyms, so I just know what they mean. I'm not in education. At which time the woman says, oh, I'm working on that. It would delay getting this out by at least a month. And by the way, we do it, but you have to pay for it, which I believe that belonging to CABE, there should be at least one volume of what the heck all these letters mean provided to every superintendent, so that when you want to know what they're talking about, you can at least look it up, because as we know, you know, some initials mean some things in one genre and something else in another. And I think that was kind of slimy, that you have to pay to know, you know, it's almost like buying a dictionary.
Yep. I can try and help you with that, Donna. There's probably a billion acronyms in education. So
Yeah,
Yeah, well, some of them I was able to find and I'd underline them in red so that when I saw them again, I knew what they meant. But one of them, and I will admit, I didn't know that SBE stood for State Board of Education. But I do now. And so does everybody else on the call. Thank you.
So I guess the recap there is everyone just email me if you have questions about any of the legal updates, and I'll share out as I get them as well.
Okay, new business, item C, transportation status.
Yeah. So if you've been watching the news, you've seen that the bus industry is in the middle of a national bus driver shortage. The process of adding a bus driver to a school district, training them, it takes 2 to 3 months. And so we're looking for short-term solutions. We're not the only ones. If you saw the news today, Massachusetts just announced that they're using the National Guard. We've talked about this in my meetings, to drive buses because there are certain people that are trained to drive those big trucks. We're looking for those solutions. My superintendent's group has made a plea to the CSDE, Connecticut State Department of Education, and to help solve this problem. It's been going on for years. I think COVID has just made it worse. We know for us at this time, M&J, our bus company, has limited subs, and they might not be able to cover all of our bus runs if a driver calls out. I notified families of this already. They are doing their best to provide transportation to our away sporting events, but Wellington, along with lots of other districts, we're determining on a day-to-day basis if we can do away games for our sporting events. If you saw probably on Facebook or out in the public, E.O. Smith needed to cancel transportation for a couple buses, and they use M&J as well. And they asked parents to drive their students if they could. One of the buses happened to be a Wellington bus. So this is happening across the state, across the country. We don't have a lot of options. And because other bus companies are having the same issues, like Ashford has their own bus company and we could borrow their drivers, but their drivers are driving when we would need them. So it doesn't help. One of the solutions, and I would love the board to weigh in on this, that we've come up with is to run a third, say someone calls out, we can't run our bus 2 for our elementary and middle school run. We could take a different bus after they drop off the elementary students. They've done both the regular runs and then go out and do a separate run to pick up the center and hall school kids for that bus run that were missed. They would be delivering out to their schools late. Center school students would be probably about an hour late to start their day. Hall school students would probably be about 2 hours late. It's not great, but we would be getting kids to school. Parents, could drive. We could ask them to drive them in, but we do have a level of responsibility to find a way to get kids into school. I will tell you, if we got them in, getting them home is an issue too, because we would then have to distribute them back out into the number of buses. Sorry, I have a fly in my office. We would have to distribute them back out into the number of buses that we have. So during COVID, not my favorite option of having more kids on buses. We're also looking into, and all the superintendents have been talking about this, we're looking at having alternate bus routes stops in the morning. So say my child's bus was not available that day, we would give an alternate location where parents could drop off their child a certain parking lot, so they wouldn't have to wait for a later bus. We're looking at that option for both center and hall, obviously. We're looking at coverage for late pickups at our buildings. So if we didn't have bus 2 to run students home at the end of the day, could we hire a staff member just to basically watch students until we had a bus. But I'll tell you, this is an issue. And you know, we're trying to come up with solutions, but there's not a lot of options. So it's just trying to come up with, want to hear your feedback about what you thought might be acceptable in the meantime.
Well, Phil, I was going to say, you could call on EastCon and ask them for some help. I know we have about 500 buses running out of EastCon all
They
over
do,
the
yeah.
state. Some going to New York, to Connecticut, to Rhode Island and Massachusetts. But we're having the same problem there,
Absolutely.
actually. And I mean, we train drivers, we keep them for a month or two, and they can get more money if they jump and drive a truck or something else, you know. So it's really going to get worse, I think, before it'll get better. And I wish I could give you some suggestions, but I think probably double runs and things of that kind that you mentioned might work for a while.
Trying to do the best we can with what the options are. I saw Donna has her hand up, and I see Ann has her hand up as well.
Okay, Donna?
So a couple things. One is, I know a number of years ago, you had to, if a parent said they were driving their kid, you still had to keep a space on the bus for them, even if the parent wasn't driving them. Under these circumstances, if a parent's committed to driving their kid, can you free up that space so that you maybe only need, instead of having 3 buses, you really only need 2?
Yeah, we've already done our opt-outs. We didn't have as many this year. But it's, you know, we removed probably 15 kids, 10 or 15 kids off of each school's run. 10 or 15 kids doesn't help. You know, you're borrowing the senior center van that has an 8-passenger doesn't help. We need to transport 40 plus kids, but yeah, thanks, I appreciate that.
And the other thing is, I know that somebody I know who went to UConn when she was a student, she got a job driving that UConn bus that goes on whatever their routes are. I don't know if people that do those runs would be interested in something additional that's, you know, either just in the afternoon or just in the morning. I don't know what their schedules are, but that might be a source of people that are already driving buses that they might be willing to either be a sub or take on a route.
Great idea. I don't have that on my list. Thank you.
Ann?
What about hiring like a Peter Pan or a Greyhound bus?
Huge money. Even
Huge
those
money.
groups are struggling too.
Okay.
Yeah, any of those, I will tell you, M&J has been doing a huge recruiting process. And it's a challenge because if you can, you know, get the training and go elsewhere, like Herb said, you get your license and you can go make a lot more money someplace else.
Mm.
They're doing it. And you know, they've talked about signing bonuses. You know, it's just, it's an issue. I mean, you know, when the National Guard comes in to drive buses, that they're struggling. So I know I've had several conversations with M&J. I know that every superintendent's talked to their bus company. We've all talked. We've all shared our concerns to the state. They understand the concerns. UConn buses is a good idea. I don't know. I haven't heard that one.
Bus companies are doing everything they can. I went to the Hebron Fair. And
Yes.
Daycar, is it Daycar?
DATCO is there.
DATCO was there, and they were trying to get people right off the walkways there. And they were advertising big time. Because I talked to them, and they, you know, as I said, they do a lot of training. They do everything that you're trying to do, really.
Yeah, it's every bus company right now. They're all struggling with this.
Can't get the drivers.
Yep. Laura has her hand up. Herb.
Laura?
I'm just wondering, like, how much does a bus driver make?
I asked that question. I don't remember. I think the starting was around 18. But I don't know if I'm right in that.
Because I mean, that seems to me fundamental problem, right? If they're getting trained and then they can make more money somewhere else doing
Right.
that.
Someone's going to pay for it, Laura, right? So,
Right.
and I will tell you, I'm a little concerned about negotiating a bus contract, which we're going to be doing this year, because I think we're going to be paying for just that. If you want to recruit drivers and you're going to pay them a higher wage, M&J's not
Everything's-
taking that hit, right?
Right, yeah, it's gonna come on us.
Okay, anything else on transportation?
Donna
Any-
has her
I had
hand.
I had one more idea as you guys were talking. Maybe in our digital backpack, we can allow them to advertise. Maybe there's a parent who's out of work or who wants to be able to be home with their kids and would be willing to do a morning run or an afternoon run. I know that we've had people in the community that have done that in the past, that they took on that job because they did want to be able to be home with their kids. And when school's canceled, if you live in Wellington and you're driving in Wellington and school's canceled, you're not stuck with trying to get to work and finding somebody to watch your kids.
Oh,
Okay, thank you, Donna. Anyone else have their hand up?
doesn't look like it.
If not, let's move on to vaccinations requirements for the Wyndham Public School staff.
So I just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to weigh in on this too, and just kind of tell you what's going on. So Governor Lamont, he issued an executive order, it's 13D, that came out on August 19th. We did not know it was coming. And then the Connecticut State Department of Education provided an FAQ document, just a frequently asked questions document, to superintendents on August 25th about what does the executive order mean. And so basically what happens, the executive order states that after September 27th, school boards cannot employ or maintain a contract with any covered worker or staff, or an entity that employs a covered worker, bus companies, unless the worker is either one, they're fully vaccinated for COVID-19, two, they've received their first dose of the vaccines and has an appointment for the second dose, if it's a 2-dose series. 3 is exempt for medical or religious exemptions, or 4 if they object to the vaccination process. The one we're not so clear about as superintendents and groups that we're waiting, the attorneys are still pondering, is number 4. It's not clear in the executive order that someone can just say, I just don't want to get the vaccine. And they said that that was okay in the FAQ document that the CSDE put out, but the attorneys have told the writers of this executive order that it doesn't say that. We're expecting an update on the executive order so that it does allow people to opt out of it, but I don't know that at this point. What I will tell you is that any employee that falls under number 2, 3, or 4, either they have the only 1 dose of 2, they have a medical or religious exemption, or they just don't want it, they will be required to test weekly starting on September 27th, and supposedly until they're fully vaccinated. But if they don't want it, they just won't get fully vaccinated. They would be required to test and prove that they have a negative COVID test every single week. I hope that we get this update, and I'm almost done, Laura, to the executive order with clarification soon, but I wanted to fill you in. I will tell you that we're probably over 95% of our staff has received the vaccine, but there's some people obviously for different reasons. I've received a couple medical exemptions that will pass through, but it's something that is out there and we have to abide by it. And there's a fine if you don't abide by it. Laura has a,
If we hire a new candidate, they have to be vaccinated.
that is exactly what was said in the frequently asked questions
Do we-
document. It said that if we
do
are
we-
going to hire someone, they have to fall into those other categories. They either have to be medical exemption, they have to have a religious exemption, or they have to be vaccinated.
Well, you said we have about 95% vaccinated,
Correct.
with two shots or one shot. And so we only have 4 or 5% that are unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Is that a problem, really?
Um,
I mean, if the ones that
So-
are unvaccinated have a religious exemption, or they're willing to test once a week, then
Yeah, the issue, Herb, will be if an individual does not want to get tested and does not provide their results, per this executive order, you cannot employ them. So if you have an individual who, for a religious exemption, a medical exemption, or just doesn't want to get the vaccine, if they are, that you're going to be required to have a negative test every Friday, the results to my office by Friday, so you can come to work the following week. If you do not have that, we are not supposed to employ that person. That is what the way the executive order is written.
and the medical exemption, they just have to get it once from a doctor or and that would take care of them.
Correct. The medical exemption has to come from a certified, obviously, a
Yeah.
certified doctor.
So we
Laura
can't,
has her hand up.
so an unvaccinated employee, contractually, we can't keep them.
That's correct at this point, and it's not clear if it's, look at, you
They
can't
don't
come
have
to work
med-
for 1 week, and then if they follow the protocol the second week, if they run out of days at some point, it's going to be an issue. Obviously, we want to work with our staff members and we respect people's rights, but we also don't want to be fined $10,000 for these cases. So I've already notified the staff that this is out there, that we're waiting for more information, but it's real and it's something that we have to abide by. Laura has her hand up, Herb.
So this vaccine data is a state mandate for
Correct.
school because they're state employees or municipal employees.
They've identified school districts and it's a requirement.
Hmm.
And their testing will not, the testing, at this point, we do not believe home testing kits are going to be accepted.
Yeah. Okay.
Laura,
Laura?
Yeah, I'm wondering who pays for the testing for those who would need it every week.
at this point in time, that's another question that's gone back out to the attorneys. At this point in time, they are saying it is the responsibility of the employee.
Because they could get vaccinated for free.
As of today, that is what the requirement is. Again, day to day, right now, we get new information every day. And again, it's September 14th, and this is supposed to happen in 13 days, and we're still waiting on information. So that's about how we're moving right now and trying to respond. And that's why I say attorneys are responding quickly to try and figure out what these executive orders mean and how we implement them. When this initially came out, the executive order stated that I was responsible for transportation employees and that I was the one that needed to collect their vaccination cards. They're not my employee. They're the employee of M&J. So they've clarified that now. And so that's another thing that we expect. It's still not in the executive order, but that's something that we expect to see in the newest executive order, the update, because obviously the bus company would just have to test to me to say all of our employees are either vaccinated, have exemptions, or have tested negative. But that could be an issue as well. There's another reason we could have driver shortage.
So our employees have 2 weeks to get a test.
They have some time to start doing those things. And I see Donna's hand is up.
Donna?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One is, how does the teachers union feel about the invasion of their employees' medical privacy? I don't think that, that's one of my concerns. And the other concern is, we have trouble getting bus drivers and teachers as it is. So now we're going to eliminate people. If you're saying 95% of the staff is already vaccinated, so they're safe from getting sick. Can't we just, at what point in time do we say that this is overreaching into people's private lives and it's really none of our business? They're adults and they need to conduct themselves accordingly. They're professionals. Why are we treating them like they're two?
Yeah, if the state says we need to do it, we're responsible to do it. And so that's what I'm acting on. I think one of the teachers unions, if I'm not wrong, actually supported it. I did not hear anything from AFT, but I believe CEA came out in support of the mandate, which
Yes.
Is that what you were going to say, Ann?
Yes, that's true.
Mhm. Okay, anyone else?
Just
Okay.
Could I just respond to Donna's
Yes, Laura,
comment?
go ahead.
Just, these are very difficult decisions, but we're in a public health crisis. And unfortunately, your personal actions affect other people's health. So someone not getting vaccinated and working with children who cannot get vaccinated is putting their health at risk. There was you probably saw the story about the teacher in Oregon where, everybody they were masked, and maybe this goes to Elena's issue at the very beginning. Everybody was masked and the teacher took off the mask just to read to the children thinking that would be okay and infected the school, because it's your mask that keeps your droplets with the virus from going out and infecting other. Double masks is the best. It's a double barrier, but it's the person who's infected, if they don't have a mask on, they are spreading it. So, it's a public health crisis. If you're not vaccinated, then you can be spreading this virus. And unfortunately, the more the virus is in the population, the higher chance of a mutation that is going to change it into a more lethal form, or one that our vaccines no longer are effective against. So we've got to stop the transmission of this virus in the human population in order, to kill the virus. The virus is what we're fighting, and it is killing people, in this country, all over the world. Right now, children, according to the Academy, hold on one second, the American Academy of Pediatrics, child COVID-19 cases have increased nearly 240% since July.
Yeah, I'm just
240%. All right.
I'm curious about a lot of things about it, Laura, and I know that you're not going to be able to give me all the answers because some stuff just doesn't make sense. Like when people get sick, like of the and you know what, it's an appropriate time to discuss it. We'll have to talk another time.
Yeah. Okay.
Our responsibility and your responsibility as a board, my responsibility as superintendent, is we're required to follow what they put forward as requirements. And so that's what we have to continue to do. And if it comes down to a decision, that's where you're going to have to weigh in and go off of, what you believe is the right thing to do for our students and our staff.
Now, this applies to students, no?
No, as of September 14th, no. I have not heard that it's gonna be a vaccination requirement for students as of today. But I was surprised when they made the announcement for staff too, so.
I can remember when there were no vaccines around at all for anything. If you got polio, you got polio, and they put a sign in your door and tacked it up, and no one was allowed in that particular property. A lot of my childhood friends got polio before the vaccine,
Everyone's best friend.
and
You've seen a lot, Herb.
and polio was the only thing. Since then, we've had other vaccines that have prevented this type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's, as Laura points out, it's really not under control yet completely.
Well, I just wanted to make sure you knew about the vaccination requirement. And obviously, if I get news tomorrow that changes things, I will send off an email so I can give you an update as I get that information.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Yep.
Under old business, I do not have any items on the agenda for old business. Did anything come up, Phil? You know,
Nope, nothing
Okay.
under old business.
okay, we're down to item 12, present to speak. We have any parents out there or citizens of Wellington?
Could I speak? Sarah Anderson, 47 Nipmuc Road. I just wanted to say that how thankful I am to be part of the Wellington community, and particularly our school community, for all of its support. My kids are 8 and 10 years old. And so they're part of the elementary school and the middle school right now. But I want to speak tonight specifically about the Gay Straight Alliance and the conversation had around it. I'm a Lutheran pastor and I serve as associate to the bishop. I read the Bible not just every day, but multiple times a day. And claiming that reading the Bible would require removing the Gay Straight Alliance is a perversion of God's love for God's children. If any children or parent of a children who is gay, or children like mine tonight heard that, I hope that they also heard that right now there is a safe, loving, and accepting place for them to know that they are accepted as they are for who they are. Our guiding documents as a school community should be the scientific and psychological studies that show that those kinds of spaces and clubs for our children are not only critically important, but are life-saving for our students. When you consider clubs or discuss this issue further, I urge you to continue being the safe, welcoming, and accepting community we are so grateful to be a part of. And remember that that great Gay Straight Alliance is a part of that truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, any other comments from any parents or citizen in Wellington?
There's a couple hands up. Megan Zabo, you can unmute.
Yes, Megan Zabo, I'm in Wellington. I would also like to thank Mr. Stevens and the whole school community for everything. My preschooler is so happy to be back in school and being safe, but I also want to speak on this Gay Straight Alliance. I am a Hall School alumni from 1998. And in 1998, we had a Gay Straight Alliance. I am also an avid practicing Christian, and there is nowhere in the Bible that Jesus is against gays. There was nowhere where the gays in our school or in these clubs rubbed off on me and pushed their beliefs and views on me or anybody else. It's about inclusion. Our world is about inclusion. In such divided times right now, putting such harsh views on children who are already confused and feel like they're an outsider is just not right. They go to school to feel safe, and they should be allowed to have a Gay Straight Alliance club. If we had one in 1998, I'm sorry, we can still continue to have one in 2021. I mean, the times have changed drastically since when I was a child in school. We need to be inclusive. These kids need their safe space. And I know myself and many other parents will fight against this. And I hope any parent on here goes to the polls and votes you out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
Melissa McKinnon, you can unmute.
First of all, can you hear me? First of all, I want to thank Laura for speaking out earlier in response to the GSA Club comment. This club has been a lifesaver for my son, who has always had a difficult time fitting in and finding kids who accept him. It doesn't matter if he's bi, gay, straight, but they accept him for who he is. He is a smart kid, and even at 12 years old, he knows who he is. And I've always known for a long time that he was a little different, but I love him just the same. I am very proud of him for joining this club and support him 1,000% on his choice. I'm a single parent who not only puts my children as number one, but I am also involved in the community. We need this GSA club for all the kids who feel accepted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melissa.
Nick T.
Hi, this is Nicholas Teller. Just wanted to speak up in regards to the mask situation and to, I guess, that GSA situation. So as far as the mask situation, I was a parent that was driving by the school with my friend. We had witnessed kids standing very close to each other with teachers standing shoulder to shoulder with no mask. So I am one of the parents that did witness it along with my friend. So I found that pretty disturbing that we're throwing masks on and not standing up for our kids, but allowing the teachers to do whatever they want. And then as far as the GSA, as far as for me, I don't think it belongs in the school. It's a political thing. And I just don't see any science that from my research that backs up whatever these people are saying. So I'd like to see it go on, but that's just my side.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Catherine Kenyon.
Hi there. I just want to echo what so many people have said so far. I love this school community. My kids love this school community. I've already sent a communication that I heard you talk about earlier in the meeting that I am becoming increasingly concerned about the complete lack of focus on diversity and inclusion. I'm frankly shocked at the conversation that happened tonight. I have sat with 2 gay best friends in my life recovering from suicide attempts. I almost don't even know what to say right now. Our children need this. There are gay children in this town. To pretend otherwise is shockingly ignorant. Please do not consider losing this club. It is important to us. It is important to children. Please continue to focus on diversity and inclusion. It matters. It can matter to the point of life and death. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen.
Last chance if there's anyone else that wants to speak, you can unmute. Going once. Going twice. Megan Zabo, are you looking to, did you raise your hand again?
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing about the schools and the outside with the teachers unmasked. My son's brought to school daily. So we daily witness the teachers outside walking with the students from either their mask breaks or recess or whatever they're doing. And I just want to say they've been doing a fabulous job. I haven't seen since the beginning of school where we drop our son off any teacher in violation. And I'm just very proud of our teachers and our community and the administration and everything that they're doing. I'm proud of these children for wearing their masks properly, so that they can go to school and be in 3 feet of their friends and doing everything responsible like they should be doing. And I just think we really need to keep this up and stop attacking each other and attacking these poor teachers who are just doing what they're legitimately told to do. So I just, since I witnessed this on a daily basis, wanted to let that be known.
Chance, anybody
Okay,
else?
thank you, Megan. Is there anyone else, Bill, that wants to say a few words?
Last- yeah,
Hi, I
last
can't
call.
find my button to raise my hand.
Just identify yourself because I'm not sure.
Hi, it's Doris Bacon, 18 Sharps Mill Road. I also wanted to echo the sentiments regarding the discussion around the GSA club that so many other people have voiced. I'm a little bit aghast that one singular club is going to be called out in such a way. I think it's important that we are being mindful of the community that we are trying to develop our children into. So I think it's really, really important that the GSA club doesn't become a point of contention in future business. And I think that we should really make sure that it has equal opportunity to be a club just like every other club that is offered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doris.
Last chance, anybody else? Again, you can unmute yourself. Going once. Going
Is there anyone else,
twice.
Bill?
I believe that's it, Herb.
Okay. Okay. There are no
Brianna
more
has her hand up.
We're ready for board.
Sorry, Herb, I missed one. Do you want to let Brianna Ross? She has her hand up.
Yes.
Did not see it. Sorry, Brianna, give me 1 second. Go ahead, Brianna. You should be able to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually Jason Ross. I'm sharing the computer with my wife. We live on Village Hill. I just wanted to point out to everybody that, at least the way I remember it, the students ask for the clubs. They request them. It's not a staff-driven thing. And the children also decide what clubs they want to attend. So it's ridiculous to me that the partisanship in this meeting tonight is happening the way it is. If there's one time that the two sides should put their stuff aside, it's when our kids are involved. And I just think we need to remember that when we're in these meetings.
Wait. Michelle, I'm getting wicked feedback.
Okay, did he,
Anybody else? Sorry, I just.
was he disconnected?
Nope, I think.
No, I'm done. Sorry.
Oh, okay, thank you, Brianna. Thank you. Okay. Bill, that's about it?
Looks like that is it. Correct.
Okay, we're down to board comment. Phil, I want to thank you for your presentation tonight and your reports. We have a lot of issues, a lot of planning to do down the road. Even without the COVID-19, we have a lot of major issues that we have to tackle. And most of all, I'd like to welcome the entire Wellington staff back and all our new teachers and also the students. I'm sure this year will be an eventful one, an adventurous one, and stimulating. And I hope that all of the mission statement and the board goals that I mentioned there will be instilled on the board members, but also in the community and supporting the board as we move forward with our education process this year for our wonderful students. And with that, if you would raise your hand, I will call on you and give your name, please, so that we have that in the record.
Laura has her hand up. Herb.
Who was that?
Laura.
Okay.
I figured I went last month, so this week I'll go first. So many people to thank. I wanted first to thank the parents and the community members who came out tonight, and for so many of your comments. And I want to thank Erin for her presentation on the curriculum. I'm very excited that that work is now really moving forward. I wasn't able to get all the different retirements, et cetera, but there were some names that jumped out because they were former students. So I was very excited to hear that Kyle Bilyak is going to be coaching the soccer team with Jacob Hall, 2 former students. Welcome to the new athletic director. Who else? There was another former student. Oh, Brittany Bassett, you said, yeah, she's a former student too. So that was very exciting. Sad to see the folks that are leaving. I know right now is just such a hard time as far as staffing and all. Also want to thank the maintenance, that comment that they did an outstanding job. I am not at all surprised. In my 12 years at Hall, they were amazing, and I'm sure it's still the same way. Hold on. I guess the last thing just that I wanted to say, just quickly, as Donna said, it's a long meeting and there's maybe a lot to discuss here. But on the issue of masks, I just would refer people to the CDC website, where they have studies that show there is no adverse effects of wearing masks. There's 9 studies quoted on the page, if you look at science briefings, and also all of the studies showing how masks work to stop the spread of COVID and how important that is. So the research is out there. There's unfortunately a lot of misinformation about COVID out there also. So you have to do your research. Go to reputable sites like the CDC, go to real scientists and doctors, not to Facebook, not to people just giving their ideas, or they did their research on Facebook. You have to go to the actual scientific studies. So that's just where I want to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Ann?
I'd like to welcome Erin and her enthusiasm, and I think it's great that we're moving forward with the curriculum. I look forward to working with her as part of the curriculum committee. Also, thank you for Mary Beth for coming forward again, right when we needed her. I think she is bringing a stability, to Center School until we're able to get a new principal in place. And thank you for Erin for partnering with her in the meantime. And thank you to all the teachers and the staff and the administration for a great start to the year. So thank you all for all you're doing.
Thank you, Ann. Tracy?
Some of it's already been said, but again, congratulations to everyone, administrative teams, students, staff, teachers, parents, everyone, for a successful start to the school year, despite the weather, power outages, bus transportation issues. It sounds like we're off to a great start, and I too am excited to hear from Erin's presentation, how much she's already done in a short time, and can't wait to see and work with her on the future things she's going to be doing. And I appreciate all those members of the public that came on to hear our meeting, but also participate in present to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay.
Donna, Elena, and Michelle, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, Donna?
I appreciate everybody's time. And I want to share a quote I heard recently that I thought was exciting. It said, "Direction, not intention, determines your destination." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna. Michelle? Okay, can you, you want to say a few words?
I'll try. So much to say and so little voice to say it with. Thanks to the whole school community for getting us started this year safely as possible. And I wish you all health and well-being as you move forward. Thank you to the parents who spoke up today, both in terms of the steps we can take to keep each other safe, which means definitely means masking and vaccination based on the scientific research. Thank you, Laura, for citing those studies. I want to also comment on the Gay Straight Alliance Club that I am pleased so many parents stood up and commented tonight about the importance of that. I'm sure there would be hundreds more saying the same things had this been the type of thing that was on the agenda for discussion. But again, this is something that is an essential way of ensuring that all children belong. We talked last month about making sure our schools were a place where everyone felt they belonged. This is part of that. You cannot have a school that makes people belong and then say some of the things that were said tonight that are so disappointing to me. There's no room for bigotry in Wellington, and we cannot tolerate it. Cannot tolerate it on this board. We cannot tolerate it anywhere in town, and we should call it out when we see it. That's about all I can manage tonight, but I'm sure you'll hear more from me.
Thank you, Michelle. Take care of
I
that.
think so. It
Take
will.
care.
I had my COVID test this morning. I'll find out tomorrow. I think it's a cold. We'll see.
That's good. Okay. Elena?
I definitely, well, I hope, Michelle, that it's not COVID, that God keep you safe from COVID. And as for the multiple comments against my comment, what I see in our society and what disappoints me a lot is a division. I see that by trying to cover it up by accepting, in reality, we divide the society. The society is divided not just on Democrats and Republicans. Now it is divided on white and black, gay and straight, vaccinated, non-vaccinated. Division is everywhere. What I think that the question which I lifted up, it should be my position. It's my position. And I'm actually very happy to hear from parents. Because when we don't hear from parents, then all we can build our position is on what we think. So it was, I appreciate the opinion of every parent, which was, which sounded today. Thank you, everyone. It doesn't mean we have to agree, but we can cooperate. We should learn to cooperate because there are many people who think like me, but there are many people who think like Michelle said. It doesn't mean we are enemies. It doesn't mean it. So I really want to make an emphasis and to show my great desire to see us united. And if we have that question, which bothers me, and I know many others, if we have it discussed openly, without hiding, why do I have to be afraid to say what I think is right? I don't want to be afraid to say, that's my right to say, that's what I did. And if there are parents who are involved, that's wonderful. Let's hear from them. And whoever has the majority of voices, that goes. That's simple. Without us becoming enemies, without us separating on groups. No, I think it's enough of separation. I think we need to stop looking for the ways to respect each other's opposite opinion and to try to unite. That's my position on it. But I appreciate everyone who said, who supported me and those who were against my opinion. And I want to tell you, you're not my enemies. It's just my opinion. I'm going to be moving on it. that I especially, one lady mentioned that they want to vote me out. Especially, I want you to know before you vote what I'm standing for. That's what I'm standing for. So when you vote knowing exactly, I'm not gonna hide. This is where I am. So I'm glad that you heard my opinion. So you would vote accordingly. But I truly respect everyone's position. Respect it. Thank you so much. And I hope that COVID will come to an end in Wellington very soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elena. Okay, I didn't miss anyone, did I, Phil? Everyone?
You are good.
Okay, we're ready to adjourn at this time. Before we do adjourn, just want to say our next regular meeting will be October 12th. In addition to that, I believe that Phil, you mentioned that Brenda will get to us on a policy committee meeting and a curriculum committee meeting.
Correct.
And I guess that's all the meetings we have right now. We probably will have a retreat at some point, maybe after the election.
Perfect.
We'll have to talk about that and see. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
Elena is seconded.
Do I have to second it?
Do.
Sorry, let's just
All those
adjourn.
in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstentions. Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right.
The
Night,
meeting-
everyone.
Night. Thank you.
See you next time.